Good morning, everyone. It is so good to see you all here today, and happy Father's Day, of course, to those of you that stood. What a wonderful, wonderful ceremony, a sacred ceremony to call this in to recognize you. And what I wanted to do today, it kind of seems like I'm the one that gets asked to speak on Father's Day. This is starting to become a tradition. And so I thought I would bring something back from the last time that I spoke, and that, ladies and gentlemen, beloveds, is the dad joke. So, and something I want to impart to you is that there is a sacred process to this. You have a sacred response to this. So for every joke that I say, or the punchline that is, you have a response, and that goes like this. Oh. You got it? All right, why do seagulls fly over the ocean? Because if they flew over the bay, we'd call them bagels. Dylan, I can count on you. I thought the dryer was shrinking my clothes. Turns out it was the refrigerator all along. I told my wife that she should embrace her mistakes, and she gave me a hug. I like that one. That one's actually pretty funny. And so, as that call and response, that beautiful call and response that Sally did, it is such a perfect setup for this talk, because although we are celebrating fathers in this community, the actual biological fathers of this community and beyond, we are also incorporating something more. So this today represents acknowledgement of that divine masculine, the divine masculine that is within each one of us. It is an invitation to reflect on those qualities that are inherent with the divine masculine, the protector and the provider, and the stable presence, the compassionate witness. And so today we're going to be talking about one of the most significant paradoxes that we find in our philosophy, or at least I think it's one of the most significant paradoxes in our philosophy. And that is sort of a polarity that happens with us. It comes from, or at least it reminded me this phrase that we have that I love so much, and that is that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And the polarity is in the human experience on one end, and that spiritual being that we are. And so I'm going to be talking about that, incorporating the masculine part of that polarity. And I'm also going to be talking about another common phrase that we have around here: change your thinking, change your life. We even have a class that Reverend Karen's going to be teaching at the end of this month that is by that same title, Change Your Thinking, Change Your Life. And I am going to invite us into a different perspective around that idea, almost like a byproduct of that idea. And then for the namesake, or the title of this talk, Tool Time for the Soul, I am going to be bringing some tools forward for us in terms of our awareness and our being throughout our day-to-day lives. So, this message is for you if you have ever been afraid to show emotion. This talk is for you if you have ever felt the pressure to be strong and feel like you just didn't have any of that within you. This message is for the part of you that longs to be seen, not for what you do, but for who you are. And this message is for the part of you that has ever wrestled with your worth, questioned your identity, or just simply wanted to feel safe enough to be whole. Did I hit them all? Yeah, I think each one of those I identify with absolutely. And so I am going to, the spiritual journey starts with each one of us in the conflict of truths. I love how you always put it, Reverend Leslie, the true truths. So there is a little conflict here with the true truths, and that is that we are fully human and we are fully divine. Yes, there is no separation of that. And for the purposes of this talk, I'm going to be talking about it in the relative and the absolute. And so with the relative, we have things, this human experience that we are having, where we can see and feel and touch. It's where we build our stories of our life. It is our gender. It is our roles. It is our thoughts and our identity. On the other side of this, we have the absolute, where the eternal lies. The absolute, which is unchanging. It is the I am. The essence of being. It is beyond the roles. It is beyond the personality. It is pure awareness, untouched by circumstances of the relative. And so I think where we get caught up in this whole thing is that we tend to always want to be in that place of the absolute. That's always, especially as religious scientists, I think this is an area that we always get stuck in, and we get so fixated on this idea that we forget about our relative nature, because it is there. It is absolutely there. It is like we have this linear path that we walk in order to come from the relative and into the absolute, and there's never any going back. It's only just that, and that we try to consistently untether ourselves from that relative and immerse ourselves in pure love and pure joy and pure fill in the blank there. And that is not the truth of who we are. Remember, we are having a human experience here. And so there is these two seeming opposite ideas or paradoxes, that, so to speak, and it is absolutely integral to our existence that they are one and part of the whole experience. That God or Spirit or the divine masculine doesn't ask us to choose one over the other, but it asks us to integrate both of these ideas into our experience. It is like we are both the personality and the presence. Emma Curtis Hopkins, oops, that was his next picture. So instead of that linear path, we have that, it's actually one big circle of the absolute and the relative constantly cycling itself. It's kind of like our teaching symbol as well. Emma Curtis Hopkins says this: the absolute works through the relative, meaning that we don't deny the world, we infuse it into our being. I went to, it was a men's retreat a couple of months ago that was kind of a global thing for our movement, and Reverend Dr. David Alt was presenting there, and if you know who that is, you know who that is. And if you don't know who that is, he's a leader in our movement, and he is just an amazing man. He used the analogy like this. He said, you are the sky. Your thoughts, emotions, roles, reactions, these are the clouds. The clouds shift, they form, they dissolve. They come in stormy, heavy, soft, and beautiful. Sometimes they block the sun. Sometimes they scatter into pink sunsets or roll in as fog. But always they pass. The sky doesn't try to stop them. It doesn't cling to the bright ones or push away the dark ones. It just holds. It watches, and it remains. When we forget our true nature, when we get caught up in that judgment, in that restless anxiety, those are the clouds. Real? Yes. Permanent? No. Only temporary. So and Pema Chodra totally nailed this one when she said, "You are the sky, everything else is just weather." And so how do we incorporate this paradox into the experience of the masculine or the masculine archetype? The divine masculinity is in constant relationship with its shadow. Some may refer to this as toxic masculinity, but it is always something that is dancing. And the polarity here is between power and humility, and it is with grabbing or pulling or pushing and surrendering. When it is disconnected, again, the masculine grabs and it pushes. And when it is integrated, it listens and it stabilizes and it serves. And so how do we integrate all of this? How do we integrate the relative and the absolute into our experience without that place of shame or fear around being stuck in that human reality? How do we do all this? Well, it comes from another thing that I was mentioning in my opening, that we have that phrase, change your thinking, change your life. Well, I am going to talk about a different idea to reframe this content or this phrase, and in no way am I bashing change your thinking, change your life. It's almost like a byproduct of this kind of idea, and that is love your thinking and watch your life expand. Or it's for simplicity purposes, love your thinking, love your life. So we have our thoughts, even the messy ones, when we have our thoughts, even the messy ones, it kind of creates a space for us. It is like being with an infant when they are upset, or being with a friend when they are in that place of pain or sickness. We hold the presence for them when we are with them. And it is just the same thing for our thoughts. We hold the presence. We don't shame what pops up for us. We just be with it. Allow it to happen, not shame it, just be with it. So most of you know my story. When I came home from San Jose, I started doing odd things. I started doing some odd things. I'm doing like a bunch of handyman work, and in my idle times, I've been driving for Uber. And it has been one of those experiences that has been so transformative for me. It has been a wonderful experience. And a couple of weeks ago, I had a particular experience that I want to share with you today. And that is, so I'm sitting in my car. You have your phone propped up on the Uber app. And when a ride request comes in, it'll blink on your phone, and you either accept it or don't accept it. Also, what happens when it pops up is that it shows you the location of the individual and how long the ride will take. So I saw this pop up, I hit, and I noticed that it was in a, how do I put this? It was in a kind of a sketchy part of Mesa. Okay. And then I accepted it, and I found the name of the person was Tyrone. And you know what the first thing that happened to me was? I said, nope. It was like this knee-jerk reaction of fear and unknown, and that's what I did. And there was a period of time that seemed longer than it probably was. It was probably like 5 seconds of where I began this inner monologue with myself that said, this is not who you are. This isn't who you are. The truth of the matter is that you are love, you are loving, you are an instrument for the divine to work in and through you in all places, in all circumstances. And it was that immediate shift of my consciousness and absolutely started my way out to pick up this gentleman, Tyrone. And so when I arrived at the location, it was a McDonald's, and he was waiting for me. And he comes into my car, and the first thing that he says is, oh, thank you so much for picking me up. He's just truly grateful for me just picking him up. And I said, absolutely, come on in. And I start driving, and this guy is just bouncing off the walls. He said, my manager just told me that I passed the manager's exam. And it was like a 4-hour exam, and I studied for weeks and weeks on it, and he just told me that I passed it. And so we started celebrating this whole thing that he did, and then he said that, he's like, and if you were to ask me 3 years ago where I would be right now, I would absolutely said, I suspect I'm going to be dead. Because he said he was an addict, and and he had been in and out of recovery 4 times, and then this 5th time, it stuck. This 5th time, it was just about a year ago when I picked him up that day, and I asked him, what is it that made the difference this time? And he said, I have the unconditional love of my fiance, and I passed this threshold of recognizing that I'm a good man. And it's like, oh my God. And so for the next 20 minutes of this ride, the car was lit up with this amazing conversation. And I tell you, and I was up there tearing up, and he's behind me, and I'm glad for that, because I simply experienced absolute joy listening to it. And as he was leaving, I gave him my minister's card. And I said, when you guys get married, you call me, and I will facilitate that for free. And he said, and call me anytime if you need to. And it was just this wonderful, wonderful experience. And I almost said no to it. I almost said no to it. That 5-second moment in the Uber reminded me that transformation isn't a process of fixing. It is a moment of awareness. That 5 seconds was not a shaming one. It was one of just taking a step back and going, isn't that interesting? I wonder where that thought came from. And so today, in the spirit of Father's Day, I brought with me some tools. So, there is something that I want to make very, very clear, is that these particular tools are not for fixing anything. These are tools for awareness. And although I can probably speak to each one of these in a metaphoric way, I'm just going to stick to three. So I'll start with this guy. This is a level, and it represents finding our equilibrium, just like the polarities of the relative and the absolute. We want to be somewhere in that middle spot. So my question to you is, where is your bubble? Where is your bubble? The next one is a stud finder. And I have to calibrate it, so. It's working. The stud finder represents the discernment over assumption. It keeps us from guessing where to drill and to drilling a whole bunch of holes that don't go anywhere. And when we act from assumption or fear, we miss the deeper truth. When we pause and we pray and we meditate, we find real support beneath the surface. That is the stud finder. And last, I have a measuring tape, and there is a very important measurement that takes place here, and it's this one. It is that measurement from the head to the heart. And this length of tape is so important. This is that gap for which we find ourselves sometimes from a knee-jerk reaction of perhaps feeling some shame to that place of stepping back and finding the truth of who we really are. That's the tape measure. Maybe in a couple of months I'll go over this one. And so to conclude the talk today, I love ChatGPT. It's like one of my favorite tools now. And so what I did is I plugged in my talk into ChatGPT, and I said, would you please write me a poem in the spirit of Rumi that summarizes this? And here's what it said. This day is not just for fathers. It is for the ones who have shown up, even when unsure of their place. You are the sky, not the storm passing through. You are the presence beneath the role and still beneath the name. You are not becoming, you are remembering. The divine masculine is not a badge to earn, but a truth to embody. Rooted in being, rising in love, already whole, already home. Let's take it into prayer. So I recognize in this moment that there truly is that one essence, the divine masculine spirit, the divine feminine. It is pure love, pure joy. It is the I am, the absolute. And I recognize even in this human form that I too am part of this wholeness, that within me is that undeniable connection, embodiment that says, yes, I am absolute. There is nothing separating from me from this truth. And so it is coming from a place of love and joy that I speak a word into this service today, knowing, in this community today, knowing that there is truly a knowing that by loving our thinking, we expand, we see clearly, we see abundance and unconditional love. We see all that is available to us right here and right now, and we enjoy it from this human body in every way, shape, and form. And so I give grateful thanks for these beloveds before me. I give grateful thanks for this truth rising within each one of us. I give grateful thanks for it all. And I release this word into that universal law that says yes. I release it in faith. And together we know this truth by saying together, and so it is.